In the aftermath of the nationwide protests, we look at some of the fallout, the role played by the courts, and how the country can best move forward. We have the views of a senior legal practitioner, the former chairman of the NBA Ikorodu branch, Bayo Akinlade. Also showing on the program, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, revives the annual moot and mock trial competition for law students from universities in the region. Also on the program, the Chief Judge of Ogun State, Justice Musumola Dipeolu, warns members of the state judiciary to shun corruption and other vices. Plus our recap of the top trending stories in the news. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Shola Shuyeli. The protest is done and dusted and reactions are trailing it. In the aftermath of the protest, how can the nation best move forward? These and more were the questions I put to my guest, Mr. Bayo Akinlade.
I must confess I didn't read everything because a lot of what he said were just trying to tell you what government does instead of addressing what the people really want. But you don't expect the president of a country to understand what everyday people are going through. So from their perspective, being in Aso Villa there, it's more of talking down to the people that are actually going through these problems on a daily basis. So for me, the president's speech was neither here nor there, and that's why I call it balance. It's what people wanted to hear. They wanted to hear a president say something, and the president really, it doesn't matter what the president says, it cures nothing. So my problem was the people's expectation of what they were expecting the president to say was dashed. And that's the people's problem, because you want somebody to say something and you didn't hear what that person wanted, you wanted that person to say. So the question really is, what did the people expect? I voted, and what I saw during voting was quite interesting, because there was a certain party that once you voted for that party, you got one gala and a 50 cl Coke. So the question now is, you got what you wanted out of whom you voted for. To now turn around and say, we want this, we want that, knowing that those problems existed, it's been existing for many years. It's, for me, it's just unrealistic. And are they going to, the organizers of the protest, the question is, what have they done before now? What are they doing? We had how many parties for the election? Are they opposition parties, or they just were there to just flag their own candidates? Because if they are opposition parties, then they will be working rigorously from the local government level, trying to advocate or try to ensure that this particular government in power now, which has been in power, by the way, for 12 years or 10 years, would be accountable. So you can't gain accountability on the streets.
Getting gala and drink at the elections, what you said earlier about the political party, does it stop the people from demanding their rights now?
Yes, it doesn't stop their rights to demand. The question is, how do you demand of your government? And I did ask this question, who is government? What is government? Are the people demanding, are they part of government? Are they part of governance? I am, as a citizen, I work, I have a job, I have a business that I run. I consider myself as part of governance. My advocacy basically was, you will not get the food, you will not cure hunger on the streets. And hunger is not a Nigerian thing. It's a global issue. And the experts all over the world trying very hard to counter the hunger levels in the world. So another question I ask is, okay, if you are saying you are hungry, the question is the land barren? Is there famine in the land? Is there a way that the hunger can be cured? If hunger can be cured, and there are still ways of doing that, going to the streets will not change anything. And then we've seen the outcome of what we hear in the streets. It's no longer, It's, you say hunger in one word, and then you say bad governance, and then you now say you don't want the current government again. You see, this whole thing is very confusing. So do you want to have food? Do you want to have good leadership? Or do you just want a change of government?
The point you made about barren land and farming, what about government tackling the insecurity issues so that the people can return to the farms?
Well, Nigeria is not a country of data. We don't collect information or data. When you say there's insecurity in the land, the question is basically, do you have the statistics? Yes, somebody did mention to me, he said, oh, you can't even go to the land because they are bandits, And my question about that is, certainly there can't be that many bandits. Between here, Lagos and Ogun State, there are hundreds of acres of barren, of free land that, you could plant anything that you wanted to plant. In Ogun State, for instance, I understand that the government is actually giving plots of land for farming, and we don't get those kind of information. We only hear, isolated information of that. There's insecurity, there's bandits. There are thieves and robbers who rob our houses every day. It doesn't make us abandon our houses, does it?
If you say the answer is not in the streets at the protest ground, where's the answer?
The answer is in our space. Where you walk, where you live. You have a community called an LCD, for instance, in Lagos. Everybody has a residents association. The question is, when somebody throws a piece of paper on the floor in the gutter in your community, do you even say anything about it? Do you even oppose or object? It's not when the flooding comes you now blame the government for not cleaning up your environment or for not doing the proper waterways, gutters and stuff like that.
A day before the protest, the courts granted some orders restricting the protesters to some locations. Now, some people have criticized the role of the courts. I've heard arguments like the courts help the politicians and even the police to restrict protesters to certain locations, and that made the protests to lose steam in some places.
Well, there are many things I can say about the courts, because the courts we have in Nigeria are a direct result of politics, a lot of politics being, how do I put it now? There's a lot of politics in the appointment of judges. That's number one. Number two, looking at it a bit objectively, the attorneys generals that have gone to court, I assume they went to court on an ex parte application and deposed to some certain facts. And the court's job is not to go and be fishing or investigating how true those facts are. Or, of course, the court can say that, okay, if this is what you think, why don't you put the other side on notice? But the question again is that who is the other side? It wasn't very clear from news reports that I got on who exactly were the managers of this protest. We only saw a lot of human rights activists speaking from their different locations, but there wasn't one cohesive movement that says you could identify and say this was that movement that was pushing for this. And by the way, when you say protest, it's a free-for-all. You are calling everybody to come out. Is that not what they were doing? Okay, so if it's a free-for-all thing, then it begs the question, of course, that you're telling all citizens to drop everything, including the judges, by the way. It doesn't exempt, including the police itself, right? Including the military personnel themselves, their wives and their children. You're calling everybody out. And the job of the court is to look at issues and do what is best for the interest of the most common man, the weakest of citizens. So if I were the judge in that situation, of course I would look at what the attorneys general are deposed to. And they did say in their deposition that so as to curb a riot or a breakdown of law and order. I mean, it is an omnibus statement. A breakdown of law and order could mean anything. So, but the court has to look at how a protest like that, saying that people unnumbered they are not. We don't know how many they are. If they come on the streets, is there a tendency that the weakest of all citizens may get trampled in that process? Is it possible that the person who makes a daily living, a daily earning, would not be able to go about their business to be able to feed their family? You also have to think about those who do not agree to the position of the organizers of the protest. And I did mention also, not everyone thinks of hunger the way some people do. And not everybody is hungry. So and we all belong to this space. So just because a few people come together and say that they are hungry, which I respect and appreciate, but you cannot use your position to undermine another person's safety, another person's right to a peaceful existence. So yes, you can go on the streets and say, oh, I'm hungry, and talk about it, but you can't shout about it or make noise in such a way that to, disrupt my own peace of mind. You cannot make me feel bad for your own situation. And that is why I said you balance the two. Not that I do not agree with the fact that people that are hungry, bad governance and all that. We see it every day. But all of us have different approaches to things. And what we've seen in the NSAS, by the way, and just 2 years ago, I think that we needed to have come up with a strategy and a position about how protests should be conducted in order to avoid the incidents of NSAS. I was on the streets during the NSAS when everything broke out. So I was not in my house. So I saw how the police were driven in and boys from nowhere smoking hemp and getting high on things, on drugs, stopping, people from moving, terrorizing the people. I was there, and I'm also one of the first people that called on lawyers to provide free legal services for those who are arrested and detained, knowing fully well that yes, some people were rightly arrested and detained, but for that one person who may just be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's why we came in there. 2 years after, we are still scrubbing the floors and trying to find out, hoping that some people who are in prison today, whose trials are still going on for arson and for robbery and for destruction of private property, are given fair hearing. We're not even done with that yet. The judiciary knows that they're not done with that yet. Now, you want to do another one, we're saying, okay, fine, do it. But you say they should do it in Freedom Park. The people they are protesting against, which is government, right, and politicians, they don't stay in Freedom Park. They don't stay in Ojota. They stay where? Where is their offices? At the National Assembly, the State House of Assembly. Go to Alausa, you'll find your governor there. Why would you want to disrupt the main access roads? So if you really do have a program to protest, it's not the location of the protest is not your protest. It's passing on the message to those who need to hear, who you think can change your situation.
Welcome back. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has resuscitated the annual moot and mock trial competition for law students from universities in the region. At the well-attended event, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, OCJ Okocha, lamented what he termed the falling standard of legal practice in Nigeria. We have details of that and more in this report.
Law students from universities across the 9 states of the Niger Delta are gathered here at the Dr. Nabo Graham Douglas Port Harcourt campus of the Nigerian Law School for the 2024 Moot Court and Mock Trial competition put together by the Niger Delta Development Commission. Also present at the opening ceremony of the competition are senior advocates of Nigeria, including a former NBA president, OCJ Okocha, other senior lawyers, judges of the Rivers State High Court, members of the academia, as well as the board and management of the NDDC, led by its chairman, Chiedu Ebie. This annual competition for law students was last held in 2018, and the NDDC says it's resuscitating it owing to the need to sharpen the advocacy and writing skills of intending lawyers.
Mooting presents a more practical way to learn the law, as it delivers a holistic approach to learning the law. It trains the student on how to find the relevant law, develop abstract thinking, and facilitate in-depth understanding of the most recent trends in legal practice.
By the time students of the various universities go through this particular kind of training, even though you call it competition, it is indeed training. By the time they finish through this process, they come back to us, and when we mention any particular thing, they already know what to do.
In the course of the competition, these future lawyers will engage in a healthy contest based on framed facts from legal issues peculiar to the socio-political environment of the region, including issues bordering on environmental law, oil and gas, petroleum industry law, and sustainable development law, with a view to offering solutions.
It's my hope that the students who are participating today are going to imbibe the virtues of hard work, the virtues of diligence and passion. For me, that's the only way you can get to where you want to get to.
It is to start at this level. Educating law students, receiving the proper education, proper guidance is key. I believe in mentorship. I believe in grooming young lawyers and also law students.
The managing director of the NDDC, Samuel Ogboko, gives assurance of the Commission's continued support in the development of education to ensure that sustainable development in the Niger Delta region. He says the NDDC will offer fully paid internship to the winning law faculty.
Your ambition should be to change the future of the Niger Delta for the best. And in anything you do, know that you represent us collectively. So this opportunity is an opportunity to expose you. Today, some of you are out from your schools, seeing some of the persons that you hear their names, but today you're seeing them talking to you. We are willing to give you other opportunities of such.
Speaking to journalists outside, the special guest of honor and former NBA president OCJ Okocha says a lot of advocacy is needed to revive the falling standard of legal practice in Nigeria.
We have to agree, unfortunately, that standards are dropping. Standards are dropping because of the general malaise in society. Lawyers, members of the legal profession are also Nigerians, and whatever afflicts Nigeria also afflicts us. But we in the Nigerian Bar Association are doing our very best to ensure that discipline and decorum and upholding the rule of law, which is our motto, are given pride of place.
The guest then joins the chairman NDDC governing board to the Moot Court Hall, where he declared the competition open as the students engage in mock trials.
With the greatest humility to this honorable court, may it please this court to hear R.J. informed Miss. My lords, I'm not appearing alone on this unprecedented quest for justice. My lord, this happened to be the first case since the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021.
My lord, we filed a counter affidavit in vehement opposition of the originating summons filed by the plaintiff and a written address in support of same, my lord.
The participating universities are presented with educational support materials by the NDDC.
And just before we go, a quick look at some of the major court stories we tracked this week.
We begin with the report that the Ogun State Chief Judge, Justice Mosumola Dikbeolu, has warned members of the state judiciary against corruption and other vices that can put the justice system in disrepute. She also admonished the judiciary to uphold the utmost sense of duty in the discharge of their official responsibilities. She made the call in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, while swearing in 10 customary court presidents and a member of the state customary court. The event, which held at the judiciary complex in the state capital, was witnessed by the presidents of the state customary court, the attorney general and commissioner for justice, judges from various other courts, family members, and other distinguished personalities. One after the other, the new customary court president, legal, took turns to take the oath of office and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Chief Judge of the state said the newly sworn-in presidents of the customary courts, legal, are to be saddled with the responsibilities of interpreting laws, customs and tradition, as well as ensuring dispensation of fair and impartial justice at their various courts.
Remember that you are not only committing to uphold the laws, but also to serve people with empathy, understanding, and respect.
The president of the state customary court, Justice Femi Shegun, on her part, called for a balance of scale of justice with good conscience.
The bank's credibility must remain unblemished. Hence, your conduct must always reflect the highest standards of integrity and fairness.
With their swearing in, justice delivery in Ogun State should be swifter and more effective. In Kano State, the government has filed a fresh fraud charge against the immediate past governor, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, his commissioner for local government, Murtala Garo, and 2 others. The charges, meticulously documented and submitted by the state's Ministry of Justice, accuse the defendants of conspiring to divert over 57.43 billion naira meant for the 44 local government areas of Kano State. The charge sheet names Garo, Lamin Sani, Muhammad Takai, accusing them of criminal conspiracy, criminal breach of trust, making false statements or return, and criminal misappropriation. The state claims they mismanaged the statutory allocations remitted to the state joint local government account from the federation account. The allegations further state that they criminally diverted 57.4 billion naira through several personal accounts of local government cashiers and other personal and corporate accounts. In Kaduna State, the Federal High Court has declined jurisdiction in the fundamental rights suit filed by the immediate past governor of the state, Nasiru El-Rufai, against the State House of Assembly. The court sat via Zoom, and at the proceedings, the presiding judge, Justice Rilwan Aikawa, took motions from the applicants. In 2 separate rulings which he delivered virtually, the court held that the applicants failed to prove any circumstances that would warrant setting aside the court's proceedings as requested by the applicant. Justice Aikawa also dismissed El-Rufai's application for recusal, saying the applicant failed to provide cogent reasons or facts for the court to do so. And we round off at the Federal High Court, Lagos, which has declared null and void the sale of the Nigerian Air Limited to Ethiopian Airlines. Justice Ambrose Lewis Alagua, in his judgment stopping the sale, ordered that the proposed establishment of a national carrier, Nigeria Air, by the federal government should not be carried out. The judge made the order while granting the relief sought by the plaintiffs, the registered trustees of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, and 5 others in the aviation industry. Justice Lewis Alagua held that all the reliefs sought are granted, except for the relief asking for 2 billion naira as damages for the injury suffered by the plaintiffs as a result of their wrongful exclusion and the wrongful action, unlawful bidding, and selection processes for the Nigeria Air Project.
And that's the program for today. Do remember to check out the Channels TV website for a replay of this episode of the program, as well as past episodes. Please also send in any feedback via our social media handles. I am Shola Sheyeli. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.